Greetings, Commanders, Cerebrats, and Executors. In this episode, we're going to be talking about army positioning. Once you have an army, you want that army to go and attack the enemy. But even if your armies are evenly matched, there are factors that can tip the battle for or against you. You need to be aware of how your army is positioned as well as how the enemy army is positioned. Generally, if one army is able to do more damage than the other army, and both armies are roughly equal in strength, then the army that can do more damage first is going to win. This shape here is what we call a concave. Notice there's a curve, there's an arc that these dragoons are positioned in, and the enemy is going to be attacking into the inside of this arc. This means all of my blue dragoons will be able to attack most of the time, and sometimes some of the enemy's dragoons will be stuck behind each other and unable to attack. They won't be getting as much damage output, and that'll result in my dragoons winning the fight, even though we both started with an equal number of dragoons. You want to seek to have concaves when you fight. You want to have your units in an arc where the enemy is on the inside of that arc, because it generally means that all of your units are attacking the enemy, but sometimes not all of the enemy's units are attacking you. Having an army totally surrounded is an extreme version of the concave. Right here, I have a cluster of dragoons in the middle, and the enemy has a lot of dragoons around the outside, but we actually have an equal number of dragoons. The enemy has an equal number of dragoons to what I've got here. But my dragoons in the middle of my group can't always attack, while all of the enemy dragoons are always attacking because they are spread out and they're surrounding me. So my dragoons, despite having equal numbers, are going to lose this fight very badly because they were surrounded. This business of surrounding enemy units also applies with melee units, which is why you'll often see Protosses trying to position their Zealots in such a position that they can't get surrounded by Zerglings. Warlocks like this. We're going to get attacked by some Zerglings in a few seconds, and I've got a Zealot out here in the open, middle of the open ground, and the Zerglings can surround this guy. So 4, 5, 6 Zerglings all attacking this one Zealot at the same time. That one Zealot killed only a single Zergling before he died. But this Zealot, who has buildings protecting his side so only a single Zergling can attack him at a time, he can't get surrounded, that seriously reduced how much damage the Zerglings can do to this Zealot, and because of that fact, this Zealot killed 5 Zerglings in a row, whereas the one who was able to be surrounded only killed a single Zergling before dying. Choke points are narrow spaces on the map, which only a few units can move through at a time. Choke points can be places like this narrowish alleyway here, bridges, spaces between cliffs. Choke points are very important in controlling movement on the map because it's very hard to avoid a concave if you are attacking into a choke point. Bridges, like this one, often create choke points. In fact, almost always create choke points. It's very hard to move through a bridge in StarCraft without creating a choke point. Because the bridge is narrow, but the other end of the bridge is wide open as the enemy units move through the bridge. Only a couple of them can get up towards attacking my dragoons at a time, so each of these dragoons who steps forward onto the bridge is getting shot at by many of my dragoons at the same time. These enemy dragoons are taking very bad trades. They're getting shot down before they can do much damage. So even though, again, the enemy has the same number of dragoons here as I do, the enemy is going to perform very badly. I've already killed several of their dragoons, they've only killed one of mine. And notice how I'm positioning my dragoons in a concave. I'm making this arc where the enemy's on the inside of the arc, and I'm positioning that concave such that as enemies step forward onto the bridge, they will come into range of many of my dragoons at the same time. Choke points, like bridges, are great defensive positions, because if you leave units on your side of, say, a bridge, and the enemy tries to attack through that bridge, they will almost certainly take bad trades. If you want to attack an enemy through a choke point, you'd better have a huge resource advantage, or you'd better have some kind of game changer, like the Defiler's Dark Swarm. Back in the details of StarCraft sub-series, I talked about how when ranged units fire from low ground at enemies positioned on high ground, they have a roughly 50% chance to miss their shot. You can also only see enemies who are on high ground after they attack you. This of course means that unless your army is much stronger than the enemy's army, you do not want to fight an enemy who is on top of cliffs. The only way up and down cliffs is ramps, and ramps are often narrow, which also creates choke points. So between the high ground miss chance, the lack of vision, and the fact that ramps are usually choke points, defending a ramp in StarCraft is an incredibly powerful defensive position. Be very careful about where the ramps are when you move your army across a ramp, and think about the circumstances where you want to attack up a ramp. But also think about where the ramps are when you choose defensive positions to place your units to hold the enemy off. In the fight we're watching here, the enemy force, which I think there's a few more dragoons left, yeah, here they come. The enemy force had the same number of dragoons that I did. But again, I killed almost all the enemy dragoons with very few losses because of all those advantages that the position I have chosen give me. Of course, none of this discussion of terrain features applies to flyers. Flying units can move wherever they want. They never have to deal with high ground mischance. They never have to deal with restrictions on their vision. They never have to deal with choke points that force units to move in a narrow line. But be aware of the terrain features of your map when you're moving your ground armies around. Where are the good places to defend? Where are the hard places to attack into?